My grandson's first birthday party ended with my daughter-in-law in tears on the front lawn and a police report filed in her name, not mine. I keep a photo from that afternoon on my refrigerator, not because it was a happy day, because it reminds me that I almost let someone take everything from me without saying a word. I am 63 years old. I retired 2 years ago after 31 years working as a project manager for a civil engineering firm in Columbus, Ohio. I'm not a dramatic man. I don't raise my voice. I don't make scenes. My late wife, June, used to say I was the kind of person who would find a polite way to tell you the house was on fire. She passed 11 years ago, breast cancer, when our son was 22 and still finishing his degree at Ohio State. Those were hard years. We got through them, him and me, the way men like us do. Quietly, one day at a time. My son is 34 now. His name is Curtis. He works in logistics, manages a regional distribution hub, good at his job, serious about it. When he told me he was getting married, I was genuinely happy for him. I liked Tamara when I first met her. She was sharp, well-dressed, quick with a smile. She worked in medical billing. They'd been together about 2 years before the engagement. The wedding was small. Maybe 80 people, a venue outside Dublin, Ohio. Nice day. September, the kind of weather you can't plan for, but sometimes get lucky with. I walked Curtis to the door of the venue, because that's what he wanted. His mother wasn't there to do it. I wasn't going to make that sad. I was just glad to be there. I sold the house Curtis grew up in about 6 months before the wedding. It was too big for one person, and the memories were getting heavier every winter. I bought a condo in Worthington, 2 bedrooms, a little balcony that looks out over a parking lot but catches the morning sun. I put June's piano in the 2nd bedroom, even though neither of us plays anymore. It just belongs somewhere. Things were fine the first year. Curtis and Tamara lived about 20 minutes away. We had Sunday dinners sometimes. She was cordial. Not warm exactly, but cordial. I told myself that was just her personality. Not everyone is built for closeness with in-laws. When they told me Tamara was pregnant, I cried in my car on the way home. I wasn't expecting that reaction. I sat in the parking garage under my building for about 15 minutes just breathing. I was going to be a grandfather. June would have lost her mind with joy. The baby came in March. They named him Oliver. Wait, no. That name's been used in something. They named him Jasper. I thought it was unusual, but it grew on me fast. Jasper. He had Curtis's nose and absolutely no patience, same as his father at that age. From the beginning, Tamara had opinions about how much time I spent with Jasper. I didn't think much of it at first. New mothers are protective. That's reasonable. I gave space when she seemed tired. I called before coming over. I brought food, diapers, the practical things, and I didn't overstay. But something shifted around the time Jasper was 4 months old. I started getting a feeling I couldn't name. Tamara would answer the door and her expression would do something, a tightening around the eyes, and then she'd smooth it over with that quick smile. Curtis seemed fine, seemed happy to see me, but he was often tired from work, and I think he missed things. She started making small comments, nothing you could push back on directly. Jasper gets overstimulated easily, she said once when I was playing with him on the floor, nothing rougher than stacking rings. He does better with a consistent routine, she said another time, after I'd arrived 20 minutes earlier than planned. Once, when I brought a stuffed bear, a good quality one, not some cheap carnival toy, she said, very lightly. Oh, we're trying to keep his room simple, Waldorf-inspired. I had to look that up when I got home. I told myself I was being too sensitive. Told myself she was a good mother, and good mothers are particular. I adjusted. I called more, stayed less. I watched my grandson grow up in 45-minute increments with a woman standing somewhere in my peripheral vision, keeping track. 3 months before Jasper's first birthday, I had the baby monitor installed. I want to be clear about why I did that. It wasn't because I suspected Tamara of anything specific. It was because Curtis had asked me to. He was traveling more for work, sometimes 3 days a week to Cincinnati or Indianapolis, and Tamara's mother had offered to help, but lived in Pittsburgh, too far for regular coverage. Curtis asked me if I'd be willing to be available for nights when he was away and Tamara needed backup. He had a key made for me. He set up a video baby monitor in Jasper's room, one of those systems that lets you check the feed remotely on your phone, and he gave me access. Just in case, he said. She won't always ask for help, even when she needs it. I took that seriously. I checked the feed most nights Curtis was out of town, not obsessively. Just the way a grandfather does. Before bed, make sure the kid is breathing. Feel better. Go to sleep. I never showed up unannounced at night. I never interfered. I was a set of eyes and a spare key, nothing more. Jasper's first birthday party was on a Saturday in late March. Tamara had planned it the way some people plan military operations. The theme was woodland animals. There were hand-lettered signs, a balloon arch, a smash cake with a little fondant fox on top. About 30 people came, mostly her family and their friends from the neighborhood, a few of Curtis's co-workers. I was the only one there from my side. I didn't mind. I wore a blue button-down, brought Jasper a wooden push toy train I'd special ordered from a craftsman in Vermont, and I kept to the edges of things the way I always do at events I didn't plan. I talked to Curtis's co-workers. I held Jasper when he reached for me. I took photographs. About 2 hours in, I was in the kitchen refilling my coffee when Tamara came in behind me. I heard her before I saw her. The door from the backyard swung, and then her voice, low and controlled, but with something underneath it. "I need you to leave." I turned around. She was standing with her arms crossed, her jaw set. "I'm sorry," I said. "I need you to leave the party. Now, before Curtis comes back inside." I set my coffee mug down. "Tamara, what's happening? Did something?" "You grabbed my arm in the hallway when I was carrying Jasper." I stood completely still. I had not grabbed her arm. I had not been near her in the hallway. The last time I'd been in that hallway, I was carrying a gift bag to the table near the front door, and she had been outside with her sister. "That didn't happen," I said. "I'm going to tell Curtis it happened, and he's going to ask you to leave. I'd rather you just go now." I looked at her for a long moment. There was something deliberate in her face. This wasn't an outburst. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This had been considered. "Why?" I said. "Just that." She held eye contact. "Because Jasper needs consistency, and I decide what that means. You're there every time I turn around and I'm done managing it." I picked up my coffee mug. I rinsed it in the sink. I dried my hands on the dish towel that said "Gather" in wooden block letters the way all dish towels say something these days. And then I said, "Before you talk to Curtis, there's something you should know." I took my phone out of my pocket and I opened the baby monitor app. I didn't say anything. I just turned the screen toward her so she could see the timestamp in the corner of the footage from the previous Tuesday night. The night Curtis was in Indianapolis, the night she told him and told me that she didn't need any help and the baby had slept fine. Jasper had not slept fine. I'm not going to describe exactly what was on that recording in clinical detail. I'll say that Jasper had been crying for a long time, longer than a healthy baby should be left to cry alone, and that Tamara had come into the room not to comfort him, but to stand at the edge of the crib and speak to him in a way that no child should be spoken to. Her voice was controlled the way her voice was always controlled, But what she said, and the way she said it, to a 9-month-old who couldn't understand words but absolutely understood tone. That footage is now in the hands of a family attorney, and I will leave the details there. She looked at the screen. The color left her face. The monitor was Curtis's idea, I said. He set it up. He gave me access. He'll be glad to confirm that. She said nothing. I'm going to stay at this party, I said. I'm going to watch my grandson eat his smash cake, and I'm going to take photographs. And on Monday morning, I'm going to sit down with my son and show him everything I have. I walked back out to the yard. I don't know what she was expecting. Maybe that I'd argue, get flustered, raise my voice, give her something to work with. I've been a project manager for 31 years. I've sat across tables from people who wanted me to lose my composure. I know how to wait. Curtis came back inside about 10 minutes later. He found me near the dessert table cutting a piece of cake. He looked normal. She hadn't said anything to him yet. The party wound down. People gathered their things. Tamara managed her expression well through the goodbyes. I stayed until nearly everyone was gone. Then I told Curtis I'd call him Monday, and I hugged Jasper for a long time before I handed him back. Tamara stood by the door when I left. She didn't say anything. Neither did I. Monday came. I drove to their house in the morning. After Curtis had dropped Jasper at daycare, they'd started him there part-time, which I realize now made more sense in context. I sat at their kitchen table with my phone and my laptop and a folder of screenshots I'd had printed at the FedEx on Henderson Road. Curtis watched the footage. He watched it twice. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then he said, "How long have you had this?" "I've been checking the monitor the way you asked me to," I said. "This happened last Tuesday. I didn't know what to do with it over the weekend. I wanted to wait until I could sit with you properly." He asked me why I hadn't called him immediately, and I told him the truth, which was that I needed to be certain, and I needed to think about how to do this without making it worse. He left the room. I heard him on the phone in the hallway, voice low. I sat at the kitchen table and looked at the wooden bowl of fruit on the counter. Apples, a few clementines going soft, and I thought about June and what she would have done. She would have known exactly what to say to Curtis right now. She always did. I just sat and waited. He came back in. His face was different. He'd been crying, or close to it. "She's been telling me you make her uncomfortable," he said, "for about a year. Little things. She said you don't respect her parenting decisions. She said you go behind her back. I thought she was—" He stopped. "I thought she just needed time to adjust to you." I didn't say anything about what she had tried to do at the party. That wasn't the most important thing anymore. "Your son needs you to figure out what you're going to do next," I said. "That's all I'm focused on." He nodded slowly. "What happened after that belongs mostly to Curtis, not to me. He handled it. He contacted a family law attorney that week. His decision, not mine. And he had a pediatric consultation scheduled before the end of the month." Tamara moved to her mother's in Pittsburgh while they sorted through what the footage meant, legally and medically. The attorney explained what obligations existed under Ohio law, given what the recording showed. I'll say that seriously. Curtis and I talked almost every day through that period, sometimes just for a few minutes, sometimes longer. He asked me once, about 3 weeks in, if I was angry at him for believing her over me. "You didn't believe her over me," I said. "You didn't know what was happening. That's different." He seemed to need to hear that more than once. I told him more than once. Jasper stayed with me on weekends through most of that spring. I have a pack and play in the second bedroom now, next to June's piano. The first morning Jasper woke up in that room. He pulled himself up on the crib rail and looked at the piano for a long time, the way babies look at something they're trying to understand. I sat in the doorway and watched him and didn't say anything. He reached one hand toward it, fingers spread out, and then lost his balance and sat back down hard on his diaper and looked at me like I'd done something to him. I laughed for the first time in a while. The legal process took several months. I'm not going to describe the outcome in detail because some of it isn't mine to share. What I will say is that Jasper is safe, Curtis is doing the hard work of rebuilding something he thought was solid, and I have my grandson every other weekend and most major holidays, which is more than I had a year ago. Tamara's attorney sent a letter at one point, suggesting that the baby monitor footage had been obtained without consent and should be inadmissible. My son's attorney responded with the documentation of who installed the monitor, who owned the equipment, who authorized my access, and when. That letter didn't go anywhere. I still have the photo from the party on my refrigerator. Jasper with cake all over his face, both fists in the smash cake, looking at the camera like it personally offended him. I'm in the background, slightly out of focus, holding a paper plate and smiling. It's not a perfect photograph, but it's honest. June would have been 61 this year. I think about her when I'm with Jasper. Not with sadness, mostly, just with the feeling that time is a strange thing and love moves through it in ways you don't expect. She never got to meet him, but he has her nose, actually, not Curtis's. I noticed it last month when he was sleeping. The same slight upturn at the end. I don't know how that works, genetically. I'm not a biology person. I just know what I see. Jasper started walking 3 weeks ago. 11 months old and already furious about every surface he encounters, every piece of furniture that doesn't get out of his way. Curtis sends me videos most days. Short ones, just 30 seconds, just Jasper crossing a room or discovering a cabinet or sitting in a mixing bowl he found in a low drawer. Regular life. That's the part people don't always tell you. When the hard thing is over, when the confrontation happens and the truth comes out and the legal letters stop arriving, it doesn't feel like a movie ending. It just feels like Tuesday. The refrigerator hums. The morning sun comes through the balcony door. Your coffee gets cold because you are watching a video of your grandson trying to eat a spatula. You sit there and you feel something that's harder to name than anger or relief. I think it might just be gratitude. The ordinary kind, the kind that doesn't announce itself. There's a dish towel hanging in Curtis's kitchen that says "Gather" on it in wooden block letters. I noticed it the day everything changed. I rinsed my mug, dried my hands on it, and turned to face whatever came next. I've thought about that detail more than it probably deserves, but I think that's how memory works. It pins itself to small things when the big things are too much to hold all at once. What happened at that birthday party wasn't random. I've turned it over enough times to see that clearly now. Tamara spent nearly a year building something. Small comments, managed expressions, careful distance. She was patient about it. And patience in service of a wrong thing is still a wrong thing, no matter how quietly it moves. What she didn't account for was that honesty has its own kind of patience. I wasn't watching that monitor to catch anyone. I was watching it because my son asked me to, because a baby was sleeping alone in a room, and because that's what you do when someone trusts you with something that matters. The truth was there before I even knew I needed it. That's the part I keep coming back to. I didn't outmaneuver her. I just didn't lie, and I didn't stop paying attention. That's all. After 31 years managing projects, the most useful thing I learned wasn't how to win arguments. It was how to document things accurately and stay calm when someone across the table wants you to lose your footing. It turns out that skill works in kitchens too. Curtis asked me once if I was angry at him for not seeing it sooner. I told him no, and I meant it. Being deceived by someone you love isn't a failure of intelligence. It's the cost of trust, and trust is not a character flaw. What matters is what you do when the truth surfaces. He watched that footage twice, sat quietly for a long time, and then he got up and made the calls that needed to be made. That takes something. Not the loud, dramatic kind of strength people write songs about, but the harder, quieter kind. The kind that keeps moving even when it hurts. Jasper is too young to know any of this. Someday, if he asks, I'll tell him the version that's true without being more than he needs. That his dad loved him enough to do the hard thing, that his grandfather showed up when it counted, that the people who were supposed to protect him did. I'm not a person who believes the universe hands out justice on a schedule. I don't think good things happen to good people automatically, or that dishonesty always collapses under its own weight. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people get away with things, and the rest of us just have to live with that. But I do believe that how you conduct yourself, whether you tell the truth when it costs you something, whether you stay clear-headed when someone wants you panicked, whether you get back up and handle what's in front of you, that shapes what's possible. It narrows or widens what can happen next. Jasper walked across the living room last week and fell into my shins like I was a tree he'd been looking for. I picked him up and he immediately grabbed my ear, which is his current favorite thing to do to me. And I stood there in the middle of the room holding 11 months of someone's whole future and thought this is what it was for. Not the legal letters, not being right, just this. Jum's piano is still in the second bedroom. Jasper reaches for it every time he's there. One of these days I might actually find someone to tune it.